Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2013. I'm Darko. Hope all of you had a happy Easter and a good weekend. I'm going to cover a lot of different news, Asia, Syria, Israel, and in the second video I'll get into some police state. U.S. moves destroyer closer to North Korea coast, says the officials. The U.S. is shifting a guided missile destroyer in the Pacific to waters off the Korean peninsula as tensions mount with North Korea. U.S. F-22 stealth jets joined South Korea drills amid sabre-rattling. The U.S. sent F-22 stealth fighter jets to South Korea on Sunday to join military drills aimed at underscoring the U.S. commitment to defend South Korea in the face of intensifying campaigns of threats from North Korea. They said here it came from Japan to support ongoing bilateral exercises. That means ongoing as in they have daily exercises year-long. They're not like, I don't even know why they call them certain types of exercises, because they actually go on all year, 365 days a year. But it's not provoking, so just, The U.S. military in South Korea said in a statement that urged North Korea to restrain itself. North Korea will achieve nothing by threats or provocations, which will only further isolate North Korea and undermine international efforts to ensure peace and stability. Like I've mentioned before, they don't want peace. These are the same people that are calling for peace in Syria. They don't want peace, and they'll let the carnage continue as long as they get what they want, which is a divided Korea, which is killing all sovereign nations off. U.S. Navy sends, and that everybody that's on the good guy's side, i.e. Satan, Lucifer, just whatever this cabal is, as long as you're on their side, the good guys, which are really the bad guys, you could have nuclear weapons. Of course, unless you're Israel, then you don't have to, nobody can tell you anything. But if you're one of the bad guys, you have stashes of gold reserves, you have a central bank, or you're a sovereign nation, then you're a bad guy, and you can't have those weapons. So if you do anything to try to assert your sovereignty, then you are saber-rattling and you are provoking. So here, U.S. Navy sends radar platform to observe North Korea. Washington also delivers a warship along with it. U.S. Navy says it's locating a sea-based radar platform and a warship near to the North Korea's coast in order to keep an eye on the nation's military maneuvers, says the Department of Defense. So amid all the hoopla in the mainstream media, it says here that the U.S. hasn't spotted any actual mobilization of forces from Pyongyang. So it doesn't really matter what they're actually doing. As long as the media says that something's happening, people, your friends and family will say, something. Now we got North Korea, and they take a deep breath as if there's so many issues that could be addressed, and yet they'll say, oh, well, North Korea. Oh, now there's North Korea. And they're only saying that because, the TV told them that they need to start thinking about it, right? So it's pretty sad, really. South Korea sets out active deterrence against North Korea's nuke threats. South Korea's defense ministry unveiled Monday a new contingency plan of active deterrence that allows its military to launch a preemptive strike against North Korea if the North shows signs of imminent nuclear or missile attack on the South. So that can basically, it's a legal precedence to attack without actually being attacked. Must have learned that from the U.S. or Israel, their bestest buddies, right? An active deterrence. North Korea almost certainly lacks basic technical capability to carry out its big war plan. So this is what I try to tell people when they say, oh, what about North Korea? We got to worry about them now. And I say, no, we don't. They're not going to be attacking the shores of California or New York anytime soon. North Korea is sending lots of signals about its World War III, which has been on since 1945, to kill all sovereign nations. While there is a real risk that some misstep or miscalculation might accidentally start a conflict, i.e. a false flag by the West, like basically blowing up a U.S. basically a U.S. carrier, a boat, or jet blowing up a South Korea military vehicle, plane, or what have you, and blaming it on the North. And while it certainly is possible that the country could repeat a smaller scale attack like its November 2010 shelling of South Korea's island, there are some very good reasons to think that North Korea is bluffing about full-scale war. We're talking about the U.S. mainland strike plan. It's detailed on a chart in Kim Jong-un's war room, in which it launches simultaneous missile strikes on Guam, Hawaii, major cities on the west and east coasts. So I just want to know how they actually get this intelligence of this, They say they haven't appeared to have mastered the technology to miniaturize these nuclear weapons enough to put them on top of a missile. Individual from the Asian Pacific editor for military technology says here, wrote an article in CNN and pointed out no, North Korea can't hit Hawaii. There's little or no chance that it could successfully land a missile on Guam, Hawaii, or anywhere else outside the Korean peninsula that U.S. forces may be stationed. So amidst all this stuff that's going on about war, North Korea appoints a reformist prime minister amid state of war for the economy. They reappointed the economic reformist Pak Pong-ju as prime minister amid the country's escalating tensions with the South Korea. It says here they are at a state of war with him. Or at least they're considering that. So he was reportedly dismissed as prime minister in 2007 after he suggested a U.S.-style wage system. Observers say the North Korean premier is not expected to implement radical economic reforms, but he is likely to shift part of the country's massive military spending into the economy. So this all comes after the South Korea and the U.S. signed a new military pact in response to what they called even low-level provocations. Basically, the U.S. will be by South Korea's side to attack. Chinese Navy conducts West Pacific live-fire drills. Remember, we just talked about Russia deploying like 35 warships or something. At least that's what's going on in the news cycle. Major exercises, basically. The Chinese Navy conducted a target practice drill using live ammunition in the public waters of the West Pacific Ocean on Sunday. It was conducted by the China's Navy Naiha fleet. So it says here, this fleet, since entering the training sections of the West Pacific, has also run anti-terrorism and anti-piracy exercises, as well as anti-missile, anti-airstrike, and anti-everything. So they were practicing daytime landing of warship carrier helicopters plus search and rescue. Fearing Chinese censors, Paramount changes World War Z. So it goes on here and says that they were worried about a minor plot point that involved a sensitive topic, China, and an offending scene. Characters debate the geographic origin of an outbreak that caused a zombie apocalypse and pointed to China, the Paramount exec told the Wrap. It says, given the fast-rising prominence of the Chinese market, state censorship, and quotas for the U.S. releases, the studio advised the movie producers to drop the reference to China and cite a different country as a possible source of the pandemic. They said that they did a similar correction or adjustment to the recent movie here, Iron Man 3. Let's not forget Red Dawn villains switched from China to North Korea. Changed that up at the last minute. Prime Minister set to sign China currency deal and boost the exporters from Australia. A currency deal enabling the Australian dollar to be converted directly into Chinese yuan, slashing costs for thousands of businesses, is set to be the centerpiece of Julia Gillard's mission to China next weekend. They would become the third country after the U.S. and Japan to secure such an arrangement from China, which is Australia's top trading partner. Exports and imports totaling $120 billion per year. Hopefully you guys remember this from back in 2010. China rushed to drop dollar and bilateral trade, stop using the dollar to settle bilateral trade instead of using the ruble or yuan through the move. It says, though the move is not meant to signal a challenge to the dollar. This is from March 20th, 2013. Biggest exporter, Australia, boosts iron ore forecast on China. Australia, the world's biggest iron ore exporter, raises price estimate for this year on expectations that increased steel consumption will boost imports into leading buyer China. This is from 2004. Booming China devouring raw materials. Producers and suppliers struggle to feed a voracious appetite. Talking about China's manufacturing industry. Russia not obliged to notify West of Wargames, says the ministry. Russia was not obligated to notify Western countries beforehand of its recent snap military exercises, a top Russian defense ministry said. Says the mechanism of checks today is such that we only need to notify Western countries when we hold planned events. If exercises occur suddenly, we may notify them only when the exercises begin. Israel's fake rocks spy on Russian naval movements. Israel's spying equipment has been found hidden in artificial rocks on an uninhabited island opposite to the Syrian port of Tartus, where it is being used to monitor Russian naval movements. The three large espionage devices were discovered by fishermen on the tiny ant island near a naval base regarded by Moscow as an important strategic asset in the Mediterranean. I think Cyprus was something that they were trying to go for too, besides the gas reserves, was a second remote base or port. So it says the Syrian television said here that the rocks could track and film Russian warship movements and instantly transmit pictures back to Israel by satellite Israel's Navy gears up for new job of protecting gas fields. We just talked about how, amidst all the stuff that was going on in Cyprus, Israel was a big winner too. And it says here that because, they got all these gas reserves, Israel's huge new offshore gas resource offers its enemies an obvious target and gives its Navy, long overshadowed by other branches of the Israeli armed forces, a big job that will require extra spending. They said the gas fields are a strategic asset and Israel will defend them. Pakistan Navy commissions 3rd Marine Battalions as strategic Gwadar port. So the editor says this was an obvious move to reassure China and to ensure a future for the Pakistan-Iran pipeline that we've been talking about many times over. Terrorism or covert attacks could disrupt business and scare away various parties involved. Israel may act to keep Iran's economy crippled, or India may not take kindly to seeing China's influence, talking about this port, and visibility increase across important trade routes. Keep your eyes on this project. Gwadar is just the beginning. So in order to strengthen the defense of this port and to enhance the security, says Pakistan's Navy has achieved a significant milestone by commissioning the 3rd Pak Marines Battalion. Oil wells set ablaze in eastern Syria. The government blames the rebels. Rebels reportedly fought over how to split the revenue. There's reports coming out of eastern Syria that 3 oil wells in the rebel-held territory have been set afire, sending workers to extinguish them. Set a total of 9 fires. Losses mean 4,670 barrels of oil daily are destroyed. It's pretty crazy. Basically what they're saying is that to keep the exports flowing, local officials are paying bribes to rebels to keep some going, and rebels taking over others outright exporting the oil into government-held areas. So it goes on here and says that the government who depends on oil revenue has no choice but to barter for it, even if it means direct funding for factions they officially labeled terrorists or their enemies. So bad situation. Rebels capture Syria's largest hydroelectric dam. This is from February of 2013, so they've been taking over a lot of strategic areas and along the borders as well. March was deadliest month of Syrian war as rebel deaths surged. So, and of course, this is coming from McClatchy, so it's supposed to be a bad thing that these insurgents that are basically dying. It says here March was the deadliest month. I mean, it's bad that anyone dies. It was they didn't get backed by the West to create all this instability and have all these refugees flooding into other countries. March was the deadliest month so far in Syria's 2-year civil war as rebels pressed their offensive or invasion throughout the country, seizing a provincial capital for the first time and launching attacks on other fronts. There's this Taklaka massacre, Syrian rebels, government trade accusations. This is from RT. They won't just say what it is, which is it's the rebels, it's the insurgents, it's the rebels that are killing these people. Syrian rebels and government forces have accused each other of killing 13 civilians, most of them women and children. They were discovered in Homs province in western Syria near the Lebanese border on Sunday. They say Lebanon's Sunni-dominated north is largely supportive of the Syrian anti-government fighters. And I'm just going to leave off here because I still have some articles, some good articles for Syria to cover. So join me in part 2. This is GGN and I'm Darko. Thank you.